So if you were unable to attend commonsku University this year at PPAI, or maybe you were at PPAI, you just couldn't make it to my session, or maybe you came to my session and just there was so much good information in there that you needed to see it again. So I'm going to be running through the presentation that I gave this year at commonsku University called 3 Features to Up Your Game. So the presentation here is really going to highlight, 3 features that we've built out in the platform that you should really be trying to use and implement into your company to help grow your business. So without kind of any further preamble to this, we'll kind of jump into it. If you did see this presentation at commonsku University at PPAI this year, unfortunately the presentation is the exact same, and so are the jokes. Okay, so there won't be any shockers in here for you. If you didn't see this presentation originally, then prepare for some laughs. So first thing is, for anybody who's joined this call and doesn't know who I am, my name is Aaron, and I want to tell you a little bit about my commonsku journey. So I have worked at commonsku for about 5 years, and I've helped onboard over 350 distributors onto the platform. In 2017, I was lucky enough to be a PPB Powerful Partner. 2018, I was a PPB Rising Star, and to be honest with you, last year I didn't really do anything at all. So kind of some things that I've learned over the years here at commonsku is that yes, Catherine Graham is as smart as you think she is. Yes, Bobby Leahy is as cool as you think he is, and Mark Graham does talk as much as you think he does. Some things I've learned about the industry. Well, before I started working at commonsku, I didn't really even know that the industry was a thing. So that's kind of the biggest thing I've learned is that, hey, this promotional products industry is actually pretty large. And then finally about distributors, and the kind of the coolest thing that I figured out with distributors is that everybody struggles with the same things. Whether you're a 2-person team or you're a 100-person team, everybody struggles with some common things about running a business, growing, hiring the right people, streamlining your process. And I think that's something that everybody on the commonsku platform shares, and is a cool kind of forum that people can share ideas on how they've dealt with those growing pains. So just to give you a little bit more about me, I love dogs. I actually once threw an axe that had bounced and pretended like I actually did that on purpose. And then finally, my voice will never change pitch. So this is pretty much as exciting as it's going to get. So let's dive into the actual content here. So the first thing that I want to talk about is projects. So while I was at PPAI, I kind of did a raise of hands, but I want everybody to think about this, of what you guys currently do to manage projects. And unfortunately, I still run into some distributors whose desks kind of look like this, or they own a lot of filing cabinets. So some current tools you're probably using on commonsku, you might be using your dashboard in order to manage your day-to-day projects. So you might be using that to kind of look at all of your pre-sales and all of your open orders. You might be using reports. Some people are just reports people, and they want to pull reports all the time to be able to see what they're working on, what they need to be doing. And that is also another totally viable way to manage everything that you have going on in the commonsku platform. Or maybe you're using something else. Maybe you've just transitioned on the commonsku. Maybe you have a board that looks like this one with all the post-it notes on it, or this QuickBooks symbol, or maybe you're using Excel right now to manage all those things. But think about how you're kind of managing projects now. Or maybe you don't have a system at all and you just kind of look like this little girl next to Snow White and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Well, what if I told you there's a place to manage, forecast, and task everything that you need to do in commonsku in one place, and that's actually the Projects tab. So the Projects tab is located on the left-hand side of commonsku, and it's on your main navigation. So what you're able to do is when you click into that Projects tab, it immediately pulls up what's called a Sales Forecast. The Sales Forecast tab basically shows you every person that you have shows you the rep on every single order. It's going to show you the name of the project. It's going to show you what stage the project is currently in. And then it's also going to show you the value of that project as well. So you can see here I'm actually pulling a report of just open projects for my entire company. So this is actually really valuable from an owner perspective because you can see absolutely every open project that's going on at your company all in one place. It's not split up on tiles. You're not having to go and pull reports as filters. It's showing you every project in here that is kind of on the go. And obviously, it's also very valuable for salespeople because you can come in and filter by your name and look at your open projects, and you can see absolutely everything here. Now, you'll notice that some of these, or all of the numbers are kind of filtered in these dates. This is based off of in-hand date for the project. So anything that's in January has an in-hand date on that project for January. Anything for February or March, same thing, would be a project that you have an in-hand date for that month. Now, you actually also have a progress tab as well. So the progress tab is more of like a visual representation of this tab. It's showing us essentially the exact same thing, but it's showing us every project and kind of where it is along the stages of processing an order. What's in ideation, what's in the sales order, what's in production, and ultimately what's been invoiced. The other thing that I do want to kind of point out here is that some of these numbers are green and some are black. The numbers in green are based off of orders. So anything with a sales order is going to show in green. That's real dollars being shown. Okay. Any of the numbers in black are based off of the budget entered for the project. Okay, so that allows us to forecast based off of that budget because we have no idea how much a presentation or an estimate is worth unless you put a budget in there. You might have 20 items on a presentation, but your client's going to order one. commonsku doesn't know that. It's kind of a machine or a robot. So by putting in a budget, it allows us to put a value next to that specific form. For your sales order, we're obviously just going to be pulling that subtotal. For forecasting, it's also really useful because we're going to subtotal everything at the very bottom here. So when we subtotal everything at the very bottom, what's going to happen is it's going to show us how much you're expecting to land each month coming up. So it's showing us a total of sales orders in January, February, and March at the very bottom. The other thing that it does is not only allows you to forecast for what should be landing each month, but it allows you to set sales targets for your individual reps. And you can see that I'm actually pulling this report for Erin and her open projects, and it's showing me how she's doing against her goal each individual month and what should be landing each month as well. So it's a nice way for owners to be able to forecast, see how their reps are doing, what they have in their pipeline, and for salespeople to see, okay, how are they doing against quotas that have been set by their management team month over month. Now, as I mentioned, that budget field is crucial. So this field is really just here to show you, hey, that's where the budget is. It's actually on the overview of your project, and you can fill out the budget on the right. This is something that is skipped by so many people, but will make your reporting so much stronger, specifically on that projects tab. And you can see that $3,000 budget then filters all the way through to Erin's project right here. And again, that number is in black because it's a $3,000 budget tied to that opportunity. So if you're just kind of scrolling through here and you're seeing a lot of zeros while you're listening to this or after when you're watching this back, okay, you want to go back and fill out those budgets so you get that accurate number. And then I mentioned at the very bottom, we had those sales targets. So you can definitely go in and set sales targets. You do it by clicking actions and then set sales targets. This can only be done by admins on the account or managers on your account, but you can go through and set a sales target for each rep for every month. And then that will filter through onto this sales forecast. The very last thing I want to talk about on the projects tab is actually tasking. And tasking is something that we made an alteration to the wording of this a little while ago. We changed from reminders to tasks on projects. So anytime that you need to set a follow-up on a project, it's done as a task in your overview. So you're able to go into overview, you create a task, a date, and who that task is for, and then you post that to the overview of the project. Again, tasks are only tied to projects. What that does is every time that you set a task on a project, it then drops the project onto your task report, which is in your projects tab. From here, you can go in and filter by projects that are for a specific rep, or you can filter by open projects, just like you could with the sales forecast. And this allows you to see every project that has a task set, what the task is, who the task is assigned to, and when that task needs to be done. And this report auto sorts by earliest task date. So it's going to go chronologically year to date. Now, this again, from an owner salesperson perspective, super useful, right? Because from an owner, you can pull this in, or a management team, you can pull this in, and you can see every task that needs to be done on every project as long as your team is setting them. From a salesperson's perspective, this is a great habit to build inside of commonsku, because every time that you need to do something on that project, if it's not something you're going to do immediately, then go and set a task. Okay, a project will not show on this report unless it has a task set. Okay, so if you forget to set a task, that project has no tasks, commonsku doesn't know what you need to be doing next, so we don't show that project on this report. So we only show it for projects that there have been tasks set. Now, the other cool thing is that you can actually click on the projects report. You can click on any of these lines, okay, any of these lines, and it will pull up that pop-up, which looks like this. And this pop-up allows you to do things like update the status, update the budget. You can see a task history, see the task here. You can add or edit tasks on the fly from here as well. So it's really meant to give you that nice central place to be able to work through all the projects that you need to actually complete your next task on. You can kind of work through those, and you can see the task. If you can complete it from here, great. If not, you can dive into the project and you can go and complete whatever you need to do, check off that you completed that task, and then set up whatever you need to do next. So the keys to success here. So how can you be successful using the projects tab without taking any shortcuts, right? Shortcuts will create problems. So here are some things that you can do that will make your projects tab super useful. The first thing is fill out budgets. There's no budgets. We don't know what to fill out for pricing, so that will kind of give you a skewed idea of what that looks like. Close out projects. If you have presentations or estimates or sales orders that are dead in the water, okay, you should be moving those to closed. And you can do that by clicking on the line in the projects tab and just moving it to say closed. That will give you a nice, clear view of what you should be working on, and it will remove all of your closed projects off of that tab. Use accurate enhanced dates. If you don't know what the enhanced date is for a project, make it up. Take an educated guess. Everybody here is smart, right? You guys all have an idea of when your project needs to complete, so put in a guess, and then you can always update it later. And then finally, make tasks a habit. With tasking, it's definitely a habit you need to form, okay, but it's one that you should definitely make a conscious effort to do. It will make your life a lot easier and make it so you don't need to remember what you need to do next on a project. It'll all be listed out there for you. So take a little bit of that load off your shoulders. So kind of moving on to the next one, we want to talk a little bit about project portals. So project portals, I want you guys to sit there and think, how many times a day do you get a client who reaches out to by email or by phone, and they want to know what's going on with their project, or they want a tracking ID, or you need to look up something for a client? The answer is probably a lot, and there must be a better way for you to communicate that information to your client rather than having to answer those emails, answer those calls over and over and over again. And that answer is actually going to be through project portals. So with project portals, it allows you to provide one project and one link. So you're able to provide a single link to your client where your client can get real-time updates on the project. They can see a full history for that project, and allows you to get feedback of how that project went for your client. So get some client feedback as well. So the first thing I want to talk about is how to send. You know, it's funny, we put this option in there, but I don't think a lot of people noticed. Whenever you send out anything out of commonsku, a presentation, an estimate, an order, an invoice, you have the ability to attach a portal link. And that link is created per project. So it is a project portal, okay? So every project has a unique portal link that you can share with the client and email out. Instead of sending an attachment or a presentation link, you can just send this portal link. Now think about when you send stuff out to a client, you probably send them a presentation link, then you send them an estimate, then you send them an order that has an attachment, then an invoice with another attachment. How nice would it be if you could send them one link and say, hey client, here's your project portal. Okay, you'll be able to see all the updates in here. So what you can do is you can email them that link instead of sending the PDF attachment, instead of sending that presentation link, and say, hey, I updated your portal with your presentation. And it would look like this. Gives your client that nice little icon. They can click on it and they'll be able to see the presentation. and they'll be able to see the email that you sent to them, letting them know that, hey, this is your portal link. Whenever you kind of move this forward, same thing. When you go to send out that sales order, instead of attaching it as a PDF or an HTML, you can say, hey, I updated your portal with your sales order. Send them the same link in case they can't find it. And now it's kind of training your client to click back into the portal to get those updates, right? We want to train our clients to use this and not revert back to emailing or calling us. So sending them just the portal rather than attachments or a link is a great way to do that. What I really love about the portal, though, is order status. And I think order status is where it gets super cool. Whenever the order goes into production, your client can actually click order status and they can see exactly what's going on with every item that they're ordering on that project. So they can see that the core blend tea here is still in proofing, but where it gets really awesome is the client can see when stuff ships out. So they can see when it shipped. If you filled out the tracking ID on the production report, it filters through here to the client, and only the client's tracking ID. If something is shipping from Alpha Broder to your decorator, we don't show them the tracking ID for Alpha Broder. We will show them the tracking ID for the decorator, though, because that's what's ending up with your client. So it allows the client to see the tracking ID, to see what product is shipped out and when they should be expecting things without ever having to pick up the phone and call you, right? If you think about this idea of connected workflow, it's not just connecting your team. It's not just connecting you to suppliers. It's connecting you better with your clients. And this is a great way to do it. No one here ever orders from Amazon and then calls Amazon to ask what's going on with your order. You all log in online to check and find out what's going on with your order and to get your tracking ID. Your client should get the same experience, and that's by using the project portals. Finally, the last part that's sneaky cool about the portals is that when you invoice your client, it actually unlocks this little feedback tab. And feedback is definitely an underutilized feature inside of the platform. But what it does is everybody wants to get rid of that little red bell icon, right? It creates this anxiety that you want to click on it. You want to make it turn into that nice anxiety relieving green check mark. So people will click on this feedback tab and it's activated whenever you invoice the client. What the client can do then is they can click on feedback and they can leave feedback of how the experience was with you guys as a company. They can leave feedback notes, they can rate products, they can leave comments on products, and it really just prompts that next level of customer service of finding out how that project went and getting that feedback from your client. And that feedback will get stored in the client profile and get posted to your company's internal feed. So, Bobby Leahy asked me to put this slide in of why should you care about portals? Well, for your client, if you can create that next level client experience by giving them a place to check on their orders, it creates a level of stickiness with your client. Your client loves the tech that you guys use if you're using commonsku, so give them a reason to love it and give them that next level experience. It gives them a more clean and enjoyable end experience rather than sending a whole bunch of attachments. You're sending them one link. You get some insights into views, and I'm going to talk about this in the webinar on Thursday, my 15 hacks in 15 minutes. You can actually see the number of times that your client clicks into a portal. And it's a really good conversation piece. If you guys ever do business reviews with your larger clients, you should be doing them every 6 months, every year to review what projects were successful, which ones were maybe a little bit rockier. This is a good way to kind of bring up those projects and look through that portal with the client and understand where things went wrong or where things went right. And the last thing is it's only going to get better. We love this feature, and it's going to be something that we're going to continue to build on. So the last feature that I want to talk about today is actually shops. Shops I think are really interesting. It's a feature that we built out to kind of fill this gray area between a full-blown online store and a commonsku presentation, and they've really kind of taken off. So I'm hoping that everybody out there listening has built a shop already, or at least you know what shops are about. If you don't know anything about shops, basically what they are is they are easy to build online solutions that should fit most online solutions that you're looking for your client. Basically, it's a space for your client to go in and complete an order online, and it feeds that order into commonsku. There's a couple of different types, which we're going to talk about, but really it's going to eliminate any rekeying that you might have to do using another online platform. It gives your client a nice, clean, simple online ordering experience, and it's really, we built it to help you guys generate some new business. So some fun stats about shops since we launched them in July. Over 240 distributors on our platform have created at least one shop since June. 57% of all those shops are pop-up shops. And we've had over $1 million in sales go through shops so far. That's right, I did say $1 million. I imagine this is a couple people's faces as I said that number when you're jotting down notes, then you had to look at the screen again. So what I wanted to do just really quickly is I wanted to just give everyone a super quick 1-minute tour of a shop. So this is the client experience. When your client first logs into a shop, you have this customizable splash screen with messaging. You can customize the person's contact information as well. And then they get to a cover page. But they can always jump back to the splash screen if they click on the question mark. You can customize all the coloring of the text in here, that graphic that we just saw. I'm flipping through all of the different titles right now. Just like a presentation, you can build these different categories. And your client can click into it and scroll through all the options, look at additional photos. It essentially functions like a gallery presentation or a smart gallery, except your client can click add and they can place an order. They can select sizes and colors. And from here, they can see their total at the very bottom and they can continue to keep shopping or check out. Now I'm going to continue to keep shopping because I want to show you guys little things that are cool that we snuck in here. Like if I want to order 200 of these booklets, but the minimum quantity is 250. I can't place an order for 200. I guess I'll order 250. So the first column of pricing that you set up is actually the minimum column. From here, you can predefine billing contacts and addresses, or you can have your client add in their own billing and shipping information. You can also do things like predefine shipping addresses. And you'll see here, if I'm flipping through the different kind of shipping addresses, that the tax on the right is changing. So you can attach a tax to a shipping address so you're getting that proper total for your client to check out. Finally, your client can leave comments on the checkout. And with pop-up shops and company shops, your client can pay by credit card. So if you're using Stripe or Card Connect, your client can actually pay online right here. And once they pay, your client will get a copy of an invoice by email, and that will generate an order and an invoice for you automatically in commonsku. Finally, your client gets a checkout message, and they're done. So it gives you guys a little bit of an idea of kind of what that client experience looks like. So let's just talk a little bit about those different shop types and how people have been using them. So as I mentioned, there's basically 3 types of shops: company shops, pop-up shops, and marketing shops. Company shops are basically you're creating one company per shop. So you're creating a shop for a specific client. It has predetermined products and artwork on it. Every time a client checks out, it creates an order in commonsku, and they're credit card enabled. So your client can pay online with company shops. So use cases for company shops, basically if you have a client who has many locations, head office pre-approved, a bunch of products for those locations to order, that would be a company shop. If you have a client that has multiple different departments that will be ordering with pre-approved products from head office or corporate or whoever, that's a kind of another reason to use it. And an interesting use case I've seen is if the client owns inventory from you and they just want to be able to pull from their inventory, you could set that up as a company shop with $0 values on the items, and then the client can just go in and place orders for what they want to pull from their inventory. So in terms of setting up a company shop, once you choose to create it, you can do things like password protect it. I mentioned that you can do a credit card checkout as well. You can also set up shipping, and you can set shipping up based off of the value of the checkouts. So you can see here I set some ranges. So anything between $10 that's below $500, I'm going to charge $20 in shipping. Anything between $500 and $510, I'm charging $40 in shipping. So you can set it up based off of a value of the order, whether the shipping charge is going to increase based off the value of the order increasing, or maybe shipping will decrease depending on how much product they're ordering. Now, I mentioned ease of setup. So if you're looking at the screen, you're like, wait a minute, Aaron, that looks like a presentation. You're not wrong. Setting up a shop is the same way you set up a presentation in the products tab. So you do it the exact same way. If you know how to build a presentation on commonsku, you know how to build a shop. That's just how easy it actually is. Now I mentioned in the shop kind of overview that we had minimum quantities. So that first column in red there, that is my minimum quantity. If nobody can order less than that, okay, it will prompt them to add more and that they can't actually check out. And then on the right-hand side in blue, I've clicked add artwork location and filled out all predefined artwork, which will then filter through to the sales order that gets generated when the client checks out. In terms of design on the shop, you have 3 different styles to choose from. So those are the themes up there in red, and you can also do things like customize the coloring of the text. Here we've chosen purple for this Google store, and then I customized the text as well in the button that says come in and get your Google on, which is marked in red kind of a little bit further down here. Okay, so you can kind of customize all of that wording and coloring as well. In terms of the design, like I mentioned, there are 3 different options. So this is the split view, which is kind of like a cool graphical view. There's also the featured view, which allows you to highlight 4 products on kind of that cover page. So the client can order those as well. And then you also have the billboard view, which is more of like a big cover page, large graphic, really kind of simple. Now, with the company shop, as I mentioned, every checkout is going to create a order inside of commonsku. So you can see here that every shop has its own order section where you'll be able to click on that and you can see a history of every order. You can see when it was created, who the contact is, the value of that order, and then what status that order is in commonsku for you as well. So it has that no keying element to it, or no rekeying element, that client's doing all the work. You're just setting it up super quick, and then the client's ordering. That's all passing in a commonsku. If you're doing credit card checkout, it's creating the invoice. All you really need to do is go in and actually build out the POs. But wait, there's more. I mentioned there's 2 other types of shops. So let's talk a little bit about the most popular, which is pop-up shops. With pop-up shops, it's also 1 company per shop, predetermined art and products, so very, very similar to the company shop. The only difference here is that you can have a checkout, or sorry, you can have aggregation upon checkout. So you can take 100 orders and aggregate them down into a single sales order. It also gives a retail pricing option, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. So the types of reasons why we've seen people use pop-up shops, if you work with any clubs or camps, maybe you create a pop-up shop for all of the campers who are going to attend that camp. So your client is really the camp, but you're creating a pop-up shop for the campers. Or you're creating the pop-up shop for employees at a company, and every employee is going to come in and order 1 shirt. Well, you don't want 100 orders with 1 shirt on it. You can take those 100 orders and aggregate them down into 1. So in terms of setting up a pop-up shop, most commonly we see an expiry date in there. Usually they're open for 2 weeks, a month, a quarter for your client to go in and get the orders, collect all the orders from those employees, and then aggregate it down. Also, in terms of a setup of the pop-up shop, the part that's a little bit different is you can set a checkout limit. So you can set that an employee can only order X amount of dollars, and then after that, they can no longer add any additional items. And then the cool thing that I love about pop-up shops, and I'm going to be talking about a hack of this on Thursday in my hacks webinar, Thursday, 2:30 Eastern. But you can add checkout questions. So you can do things like add in mandatory questions or multiple choice questions that your client actually needs to fill out when they're checking out. The only difference on setting up products inside of the pop-up shop is that you have the option to add a retail line. Now this is something that's new. You can see you have a cost line, a total line. A total line is what you would be charging your client. Retail line is what the end user would be seeing. And this gives you the opportunity to sell this to your client. If we use that example of a camp again, maybe I'm selling a bunch of t-shirts to my camp, and I told the camp I'd sell it to them at $38.50 a shirt. And the camp said, well, we want to sell that to the campers for $45. No problem. You can have $45 populate to the end user and collect that money on behalf of the camp, and then you can remit them the difference of what you're charging them for the shirts versus what you charge the end user. So you can actually allow your client to make a profit off of these shops as well. But that retail price is what the end user is going to see on the shop. Finally, talking about checkout aggregation, whenever a checkout is completed on a pop-up shop, all those checkouts fall into a separate section internally on commonsku called checkouts. You can then select all of the checkouts. You can see when it was created, the reference number, the value of that checkout, and then you can actually click View Checkouts, and it will show you all of the information from every checkout and an answer to all the questions that you added to the checkout section as well. So you can see all their answers. It shows in this kind of pop-up spreadsheet that you can also export to a CSV. And then you can take all those, and all you have to do is tap Create Project and give it a name, and it's going to aggregate all those items down, all those checkouts into one sales order for you, nice and clean. So here we are on the sales order that I aggregated down, and you can see on the sales order it has a new checkout section where you can see all of the checkouts, and again, you can view those checkouts or export them as well to a CSV. So the last shop I want to talk about just kind of briefly here is the marketing shop. The marketing shop is completely different. It basically is a shop that you can create for all of your clients. It allows you to create predefined products and fill out the details for artwork, but it actually allows your client to upload the artwork directly into the shop. So for anybody who attends trade shows, for anyone who's monthly mailers, if you have a client who loves doing golf tournament, you have a bunch of clients who do golf tournaments or charity events, a marketing shop is great for that because you can go ahead and you can fill out a marketing shop with all of these cool golf items, then hit all of your golf clients with this marketing shop, and they can actually go in and order directly from the shop. 20 different clients can all order from it. Super cool way to use it. It allows you guys to be more proactive rather than reactive. Somebody coming to you and asking for a request versus you going and actually sending them, hey, here's the cool new items that we saw at PPAI, or here's the cool new golf items that are coming out this year, and allowing your client to just order from there rather than having to do a ton of back and forth. So the design, the setup of a marketing shop is the exact same of what we've already seen in the different shop types. The only thing that's different is that when you set up artwork on an item in a marketing shop, you can still fill out all of the details, but you can't upload an image, right? Because you're sending this out to multiple different clients. So what it does, you can still fill out all the details for the artwork, but it gives a space for the client that when they're checking out, that they would be able to click to upload their logo. So they can actually upload it for you, and then that will pass into commonsku. Now, the only other thing is, obviously, your client may not upload vector artwork or something like that, so your client cannot pay on a marketing shop currently. We want that order to come through so you can review it, make sure you have the right artwork, make sure all the details are figured out, and then you can send that out. It creates a sales order in commonsku, so then you can send that out to the client for final approval. Now, I'm sure the question that some people are wondering is, if I send this to 100 clients, how does commonsku know which client placed the order? Well, every time that an order is placed in a marketing shop, it also goes into a checkouts tab. But what you're able to do is click on a checkout, and commonsku will look at the data that was entered by the person who checked out and try and match that to an existing client in commonsku. And then you can assign the order to a client in commonsku. When a client is checking out of a marketing shop, we ask them what is the name of the company they work for. So that's a really easy way for us to be able to match it up, and I think kind of a clever way that our devs did that. So the last thing I just want to talk about is, shops are super cool, but I don't want you to take it just from me. I want you to kind of look at a couple of examples. So you have Jen here, who's at Right Sleeve. She created an awesome marketing shop for Global Mail, who actually used it for their clients, who are, I think it was top 100 companies named by Global Mail, and they can actually order an award from Global Mail to put on display. So Global Mail had Jen build out a marketing shop that they sent out to all of their clients to be able to actually order from the shop, upload the logo that they want printed on there. And you can see there's a little quote at the bottom from Jen just mentioning how easy it was to set up a shop and how much their client actually really loved the simplicity of it. Next, we have Fred and Paula, who are at STS, also on commonsku. They've set up a ton of different marketing and company shops for uniform programs, holiday education programs, and basically they use it as a way to take the burden off of their client from having to wrangle all the employees and get their sizes and get that into Fred and Paula. Instead, they just did a pop-up shop, sent it to all the employees, took the stress out of that, and made it much easier for their client to use. And then the last one is Laurel. Laurel created this amazing shop. It was a pop-up shop that she used using checkout limits, and it actually helped her land a $100,000 to $200,000 online shop. And she loved it so much because it was easy for her to consolidate everything and minimized all of her rekeying. Made it super easy to get stuff in there and super fast, and her client loved that as well. So that pretty much does it for me. Hopefully this helped everybody level up their commonsku game. If you threw a question in there, okay, I will send you some email answers back. If you have questions about the presentation, yes, it is recorded, and yes, we will be distributing it to everybody, so keep an eye out for that next week. Okay, but if you have a question and you threw it in there, we will get that back to you. Or as always, you can reach out to the team at support@commonsku.com. If you haven't seen the new pop-up on commonsku for my next webinar, I am doing a webinar, as I mentioned, on Thursday, January 30th, 2:30 Eastern. It is 15 hacks in 15 minutes. If you think you know everything there is to know about commonsku, check out that presentation because it has some really, really cool ways that people are using the platform. So I hope everybody learned something today. And like I mentioned, if you have any questions, reach out to the support team. If you threw a question in there, I will make sure we get back to you. So enjoy the rest of your day, guys. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you all on Thursday.